Hello and welcome to another Treehouse tutorial. This one is a reading Treehouse tutorial and it'll hopefully be useful to both parents and to children. We're going to focus in on an objective that is all about words and phrases and how they capture the reader's interest and imagination. I've chosen this text today and literally just a page from it. So this is the Iron Man, really good for lower key stage 2, years 3 and 4 primarily, but equally I would expect year 5, 6 children to be able to get something from this video today in terms of the objective itself, because that continues in upper key stage 2. So I'm just going to read through the first page of this before I even give you any kind of tips on questions to the parents and any responses, tips to the children as well. So here we go, chapter 1, The Coming of the Iron Man. The Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. How far had he walked? Nobody knows. Where had he come from? Nobody knows. How was he made? Nobody knows. Taller than a house, the Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff, on the very brink, in the darkness. The wind sang through his iron fingers. His great iron head, shaped like a dustbin, but as big as a bedroom, slowly turned to the right, slowly turned to the left. This is a fantastic book written by Ted Hughes, and the introduction itself, I would hope, really kind of draws us in as a reader. So I'm just going to give you a few tips over the next minute or two as to how we can kind of dissect literally just half a page like this. I think sometimes the thought is for us to race through our reading and sometimes to kind of get lots of reading miles in, we might call it. And to just think, I'm going to read 10 pages tonight, and that's my main goal. But actually the main purpose of reading is actually the comprehension behind it, and comprehension is all about understanding what you've read. So I'm going to throw a few different possible questions and responses out there for this short amount of text. So if we just look back at the first line itself, the Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. Now straight away I'll be stopping there. Parents, for example, asking those questions. What questions have you got in your mind when you're reading this? What are you not sure about here? What do you not know already? How's suspense been created when it simply says came to the top of the cliff? Because I'm certainly asking after sentence 1 immediately, where's this cliff? Why has he come to the top of the cliff? What's actually going on here? So encouraging that kind of question of the text immediately. And then we've got that next little section here, this paragraph. How far had he walked? Nobody knows. Where had he come from? Nobody knows. How was he made? Nobody knows. Could be asking here questions around what's going on with nobody knows here. And I would hope that the children will be screaming out now saying, well, repetition, we've got some repetition there. Okay, so every time that your child recognises a device that's used like that, why? Always saying why is it used? Why is the repetition there? It's kind of given us a bit of a kind of poetic feel. Yeah, I would be liking that kind of response. Perhaps like an emphasis there that's being placed on this mystery around the Iron Man. Well, just nobody knows, and it's emphasising that point. And there's that kind of rule of 3, because things are often repeated 3 times. Certainly when you move on to the text types like persuasive speeches and things like that. So there's all sorts of links and stuff that you can draw from that. And just the questions themselves, the fact that there's different questions going on there. That's really, really driving for us to have that kind of inquisitive, curious approach in this book to draw us in, to hook us in as a reader, and then reel us in and get us interested in it. We've then got some imagery here. Taller than a house, the Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff, on the very brink, in the darkness. Now, always look out, whether you're the reader, whether you're the parent who's reading with a child, always look out for new vocabulary, words that you're not exactly sure on the meaning of, but you can give it a go. So I would be looking at brink here, for instance, especially if it's unfamiliar. So asking your child, for example, to define the word brink, or more importantly, to kind of give synonym for the word brink. What could brink mean? If you're not sure, then what impression, what idea do you get from the sentence as you read around the words and you look at the word in context? So they might be going towards here, maybe it's the edge of the cliff here, and understanding that word and developing that. Another way to flip that kind of question is, okay, in this sentence or on this page, find another word for me that means edge, or find a word that is similar in meaning to edge. That's a kind of test style question that they will get asked as they move further up the school. And then on our final paragraph there, for the first page at least, the wind sang through his iron fingers. So immediately here we've got some figurative language. It's a metaphor. You could be asking your child about that. Hopefully your child would equally sort of start to say, and some of you might be screaming out now, kids, but it's personification as well, because actually you are making the wind sound like a human by saying that it sang, it given that the wind human qualities that it can sing when it can't actually. And again, pushing for that why do you think that might be the case? Now it might just be a prediction at this stage, but why might the author Ted Hughes be wanting to make the wind sound like it is singing? Does he want the wind to sound kind of friendly in some sort of way, and that it's kind of at peace with the Iron Man? Is the Iron Man at peace with nature, for instance? Could it be more of a kind of giving off like an eerie atmosphere or feeling to it, depending on what the singing is? It's a really good way to get into this text from an early stage, to ask those questions. I don't intend for this video to be any longer. However, this has hopefully shown you how literally in the case of just a very short amount of text, you can have a lot of question, a lot of discussion going on. Don't just focus on those reading miles. Always think, is there a new word or a new phrase in this book that captures our interest and imagination? Is there something that we can talk a little bit more about? If there isn't, then the text isn't challenging enough. So you need to make sure that as a reader, kids, or as a parent, that book level is upped, and that you go for some harder texts so that you can have those kind of discussions around the new words and phrases. I hope that's been useful.